Hello and welcome to one and all. In today's class, we will discuss about the next important question, that is what is National Infrastructure Pipeline 2020-25, which is announced or launched by the Government of India. Okay. So before we proceed to the answer, let us check out what is the meaning of infrastructure. So infrastructure is nothing but all the facilities which are very necessary for the direct production activities. Okay, so the direct production activities both in the primary sector as well as in the secondary sector. Okay, so the infrastructure, it can be classified into two types. One is the economic infrastructure, that is transport, communication, irrigation, power, marketing, storage, real estate, banking and finance, insurance, all those things, hotels, trade, tourism, all those things come under the category of economic infrastructure. And another one is the social infrastructure, which is comprising of health and education. So all these facilities are directly essential or very essential or directly responsible for the development of both the primary sector as well as the secondary sector. Okay, see, for example, the farmers, if he is not having the proper road connectivity, how can he sell his goods to the bring his produce to the market? In the same way, even the industrial sector also, they need the proper transportation facilities, they need the proper storage facilities, they need the proper communication facilities, they need the proper financial facilities, isn't it? So unless these facilities are supplied or provided to both the primary sector as well as the secondary sector, these two sectors cannot function properly. So on the whole, if there is no proper infrastructural facilities available in the country, both the economic infrastructure as well as the social infrastructure, it is not only the economic infrastructure, even the health and education, that is also very important for the development of the country. So unless these infrastructural facilities are available in a particular country, the economy cannot function properly. Okay, so that is the importance of infrastructure. And another major thing about the infrastructure is that infrastructure, it is one area where the investment required is very huge compared to all the other projects. Generally, it is said that the infrastructural investment is very high. That is one thing. And also the infrastructure, the gestation period is very long. It is not the returns, the investor cannot get the returns very quickly. It takes a long period of time to get the returns. So these are the two special features of infrastructural investment. One is it requires a huge amount of investment. Second thing, the returns for that investment will take a very long period of time. So that is why it is very difficult to find the suitable investors for the infrastructure. Okay, so it is not possible only for the government to of course it is the responsibility of the government to provide all the infrastructural facilities in the country, but at the same time it is entirely not possible for the government to provide the infrastructural facilities or to make the investment only on the part of the government. So the government is seeking the assistance even the private sector. So in order to facilitate the infrastructural investment, in order to facilitate the infrastructural development in the country for the smooth functioning of the country, the Government of India launched the National Infrastructural Pipeline for the financial year 2020 to 2025. Okay, so now let us move on to the main question. What is that infrastructural pipeline? So as I mentioned, infrastructural facilities are necessary for inclusive economic growth. So we have seen right from the first chapter, one of the main objectives of Indian economic planning is that inclusive economic growth. So what is the meaning of inclusive economic growth? That means what? Whatever the economic growth that is happening in the country, whatever the rise in the national income that is happening in a country, even the poorer sections of the population should also be benefited. The share of national income should even reach to the poorer sections of the population. So if that is happening, then that is what is known as the inclusive economic growth. Okay, so that is why the infrastructural facilities should be developed all over the country. then only the poorer sections of the population will also be benefited out of these infrastructural facilities. If the poorer sections are also benefited, then it will lead to inclusive economic growth in the country. So these infrastructure facilities require huge amount of investment, isn't it? So in order to achieve the GDP of $5 trillion by 2024-25, that is one of the main aims of the current government. That is, the GDP should rise in such a way that it should be around 5 trillion US dollars by 2024-25. So in order to reach that 5 trillion US dollars by 2024-25, India needs to spend about further the sufficient infrastructure facilities should be developed in the country. In order to develop the sufficient infrastructure facilities, the government has to keep on investing on infrastructure. So how much the government has to invest? India needs to spend about $1.4 trillion, which is roughly around 100 lakh crores between 2020-25. So for the next 5 years, the government had to, in the sense that from between 2020 to 25, the government should invest an amount equal to 100 lakh crores on infrastructure. So this program, which is launched by the government, is known as the National Infrastructure Pipeline for the period financial year 2020 to 2025. Okay. Now, what are the highlights of National Infrastructure Pipeline 2020-25? So first, what it is given, NIP is expected to enable well-prepared infrastructure projects. So wherever the infrastructure facilities are not available properly, what are all the essential infrastructural facilities required in the country? So the project should be prepared carefully, and which will create jobs. So the more and more amount of jobs should be created, improve ease of living. So if all those facilities are available in every nook and corner of the country, then it will improve the ease of living for the majority of the sections of the population in the country, and provide equitable access to infrastructure for all. That's what we are referring to, inclusive economic growth. So even the poorer sections of the population will be able to avail all those infrastructural facilities. So that's what we mean by provide equitable access to infrastructure for all, thereby making growth more inclusive. Only even if the poorer sections of the population are also benefited out of these infrastructural facilities. As I mentioned, the poor farmer in any remote rural area, he should be able to bring his produce to the market and sell his produce in the market at the market price. So whatever things that are required for him to sell the commodity at the market price, all those facilities should be available to him or her. So that is what we mean by equitable distribution, access to infrastructure facilities to all the citizens of the country. So thereby making growth more inclusive. That is the first highlight of the National Infrastructure Policy 2020-25. The second one is the NIP has projected total infrastructure investment of 102 lakh crore. Even though it requires around 100 lakh crores, the total projected investment is around 102 lakh crores, because of the price rise in the country, it is not possible to make the exact amount of investment. It is always better to have a higher investment in the beginning itself. Okay, so 102 lakh crore during the period FY 2020-25. So this 102 lakh crore, it has to be shared between the central government, the state government, as well as the private sector. Okay, so the share of central government is around 39%. Also the share of the each of the state governments, wherever the infrastructure facilities are going to be developed, so that particular state government is also supposed to invest around 39%, and the remaining has to come forward from the private sector, which is around 22%. Okay, so this is the project that is launched by the government. It is a very this is a first of its kind. So far, such a major amount of investment, such a major project has not been undertaken in our country so far. So this is the first ever exercise undertaken in the country. So that is why it is a challenge whether the targets will be achieved or not. That is a challenge for the country. But it is hope if the projects prepared by the government is proper, then definitely or automatically it will attract the investment from various sectors. That is, first it should attract the investment from the central government itself. It should also attract the investment from the respective state governments. Apart from that, we should also get the investment from the foreign countries, and also urban and local bodies, other banks and financial institutions, the private investors in the country. So all those sectors should come forward to make the investment on this infrastructure. Then how it will happen? Only if the projects prepared for this national infrastructure pipeline, if the project prepared is very conclusive, it is indicating that it is a well prepared infrastructure project in the country. So this is something, a challenging thing which is undertaken by the government, and after 2020-25 we will know whether the government has achieved the challenge or met the targets or not. But anyway, this is one of the first ever undertaken something, a project which is undertaken by the country, which is the national infrastructure pipeline for the period financial year 2020 to 2025. Okay, now this is also one of the important 5-mark question. Of course, so far this question has not been asked in the board exam before. That is because of the reason I think I mentioned previously also, when I was explaining about the important questions, when I was uploading in that video, I have mentioned in that there are certain questions which have not been asked before, because the government, the board of intermediate has cancelled, deleted certain portion. Only the 70% syllabus was included, isn't it? And because of that, these questions were not asked before. But these are all the questions which are very important, pertaining to the country as a whole. So it is equally important. You can expect this kind of questions in the board exam for 5 marks. Okay, so just go through the answer before, and go through the answer properly, understand the concept, understand what is the meaning of infrastructure, and what is the necessity for developing or launching as a particular program called the national infrastructure pipeline, and what is the period of this national infrastructure pipeline, and what is this project is aiming for, what, that is creating jobs, improve the ease of living, etc., all those things. And also, what is the amount of investment required, and who are all the participants of this national infrastructure pipeline. Okay, so go through the answer properly, revise it, and please prepare this for your board exam. Okay, so if you find this video useful, please like, share, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. And until my next class, take care. Bye bye.